On this edition, I'm going to break down and predict the upcoming fight on the UFC on Fox 5 card between Mauricio Shogun Rua and Alexander Gustafsson. Now, these are two of the best strikers in the light heavyweight division, and the winner of this fight could very well receive a title shot. Now, what I'm going to do in this video, I'm just going to break down both fighters. I'm going to do my predictions. So I'll start with Alexander Gustafsson. Now, Gustafsson started boxing at the age of 10, and his striking is really his bread and butter of his game. His hand speed is outstanding. He has good footwork. It's not very graceful, but he has good footwork. It allows him to be efficient in his striking. It's very fluid. It's not graceful, but it's very fluid. And he has very crisp striking. He throws strikes at very weird angles. He can incorporate leg kicks, but predominantly uses his hands. And I think the best part about Gustafsson is his ability to counter-strike and to also be on the offensive. I actually think he's a better counter-striker than he is going on the offensive. We've seen time and time again what he's did with Hammond and what he's done with Matyushenko. He's used his counter-striking effectively. He's almost let people walk right into his strikes. And the thing about Gustafsson is that people look at Gustafsson and Shogun and think that Gustafsson has this huge reach advantage. But that's not the case, is that Gustafsson has a 76.5-inch reach to Shogun's 76. I think the difference is, however, it may not be a huge reach advantage for Gustafsson, but Gustafsson most definitely fights his reach better than Shogun. Gustafsson has the ability to sit outside the pocket and pick people apart. It's also his footwork that allows him to do so and his hand speed. But if there's anybody who fights his reach very effectively in the light heavyweight division and in this fight, it is most definitely Alexander Gustafsson. And he has good knockout power. The question is, can his power finish a fighter like Shogun, who has most definitely a battle-tested chin? And Gustafsson does have a good chin as well. But, you know, fighting a fighter like Shogun, Shogun's most definitely a chin tester, so we'll see how his chin can hold up. He's most definitely going to receive some of the strikes in this fight. I'd say the one area for concern of Gustafsson in the striking game is when he slips punches, he does it with his hands down and he leaves his head exposed. And with a fighter like Shogun, who can pick people apart with his timing, it puts an area for concern. In regards to Gustafsson's ground game, since he's been dominated, or when he was dominated by Phil Davis on the ground in their fight, got submitted, he went to train at Alliance MMA. He was training with Brandon Berry. He was training with Phil Davis. And his grappling has come a long way. His wrestling, that is. He's also a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's not really a takedown expert. He has a very good frame. He's very quick and explosive. He can take down Shogun, in my honest opinion. And when he is on the ground, he has good ground control. He can posture up and rain down ground and pound. And he has a very good rear naked choke. He can most definitely submit fighters. If he is to be put on his back, I think it'd be very interesting to see how he fights in his guard against a fighter like Shogun, who has very good ground and pound. So a couple things for Gustafsson. He definitely has the reach advantage. He fights his reach better. So he has a good chin in this fight. He's the faster fighter in this fight. And so where I see Gustafsson being successful in this fight, I think he's got to use his footwork in the octagon to his advantage and use his speed. I would sit outside the pocket and counter strike with Shogun. I'd also try and incorporate my wrestling into this game and try and use some ground and pound on Shogun. So I don't see Gustafsson finishing this fight, even though he does have good knockout power. I think he's got to fight this one smart. He's got to counter-strike, sit outside the pocket, use his speed to his advantage, and pick apart Shogun. He's definitely going to eat the strikes in the process, but if he is to win this fight, I see him winning via unanimous decision. So that's what I have for Alexander Gustafsson. So Mauricio Shogun Rua. Now, Shogun Rua is a pride legend. He's had success in the UFC. He's also had a couple hiccups in the UFC. But one thing we always know is that Shogun always comes ready to put on an entertaining fight. Doesn't matter what his health is or how his cardio is, he's always going to look for the finish, and he's such an entertaining fighter to watch. He's one of my personal favorites. Definitely go down as one of the better fighters in mixed martial arts. So in regards to Shogun's game, Muay Thai and boxing, I mean, he is definitely the more dynamic striker in this fight. His ability to change levels, to use his leg kicks effectively. He can work the head, work the body, and kick the leg and get rid of the lead step of fighters. I think that's the most impressive thing about Shogun, his ability to utilize his leg kicks effectively. And with his striking, he does have good boxing. He can use his hands, but it's a lot of looping strikes. And against a guy like Gustafsson, it's going to be difficult for him to land the strikes unless his timing is right, unless he could time Gustafsson coming forward. Shogun's timing is some of the best. We saw him do it to Lyoto Machida in their second fight. He timed Machida coming forward perfectly, and obviously we know what happened after that, sent him down to the deck and finished him on the ground. I think Shogun's timing is definitely a big factor, and also his ability to have his knockout power. He could finish the fight in one punch. I think that's the factor in this. I think he has a little bit more knockout power than Gustafsson. That's no discredit to Gustafsson. Shogun's just, with that one strike, he could finish a fight or change the whole aspect of a fight or the outcome of a fight. In regards to his ground game, he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We saw some of his takedowns in the Brandon Vera fight. He utilized his ground game and his ground and pound And a lot of people don't know that Shogun Rua actually has a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, pretty much because he fancies himself a striker, and he'd rather keep the fight stand because of his really good striking. But if he is on the ground, he can most definitely submit first. He only has one submission on his resume. He does have a good guard. His ability to get up when he has been taken down is outstanding. So a couple things about Shogun. I'd say he has a really good chin in this fight. He has a reach disadvantage in this fight. He's not the faster fighter in this fight. I think he has the better timing, and he's the better technical and dynamic striker in this fight. And just the area for concern with Shogun is when he covers up, he leaves his body exposed. I think if he is to do that, I think Gustafsson's going to try and chop him down and work the body. So I think the one thing really is where I think Shogun's going to be successful in this fight. I think, you know, Shogun could sit outside and turn into a technical striking match, but it's going to be tough with a guy with the speed of Gustafsson and the footwork of Gustafsson. I think there's only really one thing Shogun can do in this fight. If it does go to decision, I really do see Gustafsson taking this fight. If it does go to decision, I think there's no myth to this. I think Shogun needs to press forward, eat strikes in the process against a counter striker like Gustafsson, and try and finish this fight. He's got to land that strike, and he's got to go for the kill if he is to wobble Gustafsson. So if Shogun is successful, it's got to be on the he's got to be aggressive. He's got to push forward, eat the strikes, and he's going to finish this fight via TKO or knockout if he is to win this fight. So that's what I have for Shogun Rua. So where my prediction lies in this fight, you know, I've been on the fence about this one for weeks. No joke. They're both such good strikers. Both guys have good chins. And just kind of like old school versus almost new school. I'm not saying Shogun's so old, but it's the fact that Shogun's been in the game longer. Shogun has a lot more experience. But when it comes down to, I think Shogun's most definitely going to get his strikes. But when it comes down to, I think Gustafsson's going to come out with a game plan. He's going to be too fast for Shogun. He's going to incorporate and use his reach effectively, move around in the octagon, pick his spots. I think this one's going to go to decision. I mean, when it comes down to, I think Gustafsson's going to be too fast, work the angles, use his weird striking angles, pick apart Shogun in the process, definitely eating strikes in the process. I see Alexander Gustafsson winning this fight via unanimous decision and maybe inching one step closer to facing the light heavyweight champion, whether it's John Jones or Vitor Belfort. And that's what I have for this edition. It's Kyle Delaney signing off. I'm out of here.